What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your Brewmaster in Chief. And tonight in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with another episode of Brewing With. And for those of you who pay attention to the community posts, you'll already know what we're brewing with tonight. But tonight, we are finally brewing with Vivien, the new Planeswalker from Streets of New Capenna. I've been dying to brew with this card, and to be honest, I've spent an entire day at it, and we're still not entirely quite there yet as far as the final build. And this deck view here will give you an idea of how deep down the rabbit hole I've gone today. Just quickly modifying this deck box to have Vivien as well. So this video is going to be a little different to our usual brewing with episodes, because in my usual brewing with episodes I will have probably 3, sometimes 4 decks, and I'll play most of them. Tonight it's going to be a little bit more talking and a little less playing, well, because I will never have the chance to play 6 decks like this, but I just want to kind of go through the thought processes that I had and what led me down this path, and how it is that I ended up with having this many versions, and you know, I'm still not entirely done yet. So Vivien, let's first have a look at this Planeswalker, right? That's the best way. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value 1 equals to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value plus, you know, and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So you can use this in Planeswalker. It doesn't really have an ultimate, so you're not like, it doesn't really matter whether you're plussing 1 or plussing 2, because it's not like you're trying to more quickly arrive at an emblem or something. It's just kind of doesn't really matter. So it depends on the board state, and if your hand is already very stacked, you'll probably go for the +2. If your hand is very empty, you'll probably go for the +1, and we'll see why in a second. But the +2 requires you to have the spread of creatures where, like, you know, you sacrifice a 1-drop, you get a 2-drop. You sacrifice a 2-drop, you can get a 3-drop. You can sacrifice a 3-drop, you get a 4-drop. And I can imagine, you know, people trying to use it in that way, where, like, maybe because, you know, she does cost 6 mana, which is a lot, you need to play her on turn 6. Then the following turn, if she doesn't get removed in some way, you can remove a 6-drop. No, you don't have the 6-drop yet. You first have to play another 6-drop. So, like, you need to have both of your 6-drops in your hands. Play the Vivien, then the other one. Then you get to sacrifice that one. Ooh, you get a free Titan. It's like, is the Titan that much better than a Tovolar's Huntmaster? Than a, you know, there's some amazing 6-drops that you could have just in mono green, or any of the other color combinations that you would run Vivien in. So the first option there, the first mode, seems to me to be the weirdest one. Like, it might be the sort of thing where you, like, incidentally, okay, you know, to build the entire deck around the +2 of Vivien is very difficult. I've tried my best. But if it can be, like, incidental, like there's some of the cards in the deck that, you know, maybe they have a death trigger, so when you're sacrificing them, you're getting some value, and you get to, you know, put another creature onto the battlefield for free. That's pretty cool. And then if the situation doesn't arise where you have that specific creature on the battlefield, because you haven't built your entire deck around it, you know, there's a high probability of chance that you have creatures on the battlefield that don't specifically have added value when sacrificed. Then you probably go for the second option, the +1, where you mill 5 cards and put any number of creature cards milled that way into your hand. So then this is the second conundrum. You need to have a deck that is mostly filled with creatures, so that if the first option isn't valid, then you're gonna still get the maximum value out of the second option. And then there's the third option, -1, where you just use Vivien as a way of producing four rhinos, one every turn, and just who cares about the +1 and the +2. So I've tried to build decks around all of those because that's just how I am, and I've done some that kind of take advantage of all of them to try and anyway, like I said at the beginning of the introduction, I'm not going to have the time to dive into all of them, but in terms of gameplay, but I will at least show you all of them. The ones that have been working the best for me so far are, and of course I got some inspiration from fellow content creators. This mono green list, I got a lot of inspiration from Swayze. This one is labeled Croaky's. This is Croaky's best of 3 list with this card. And then the rest are my own creations. So I think what I'm going to do to not waste too much time is to dive into the ones that I consider to be the best and the ones that have been giving me the best results over an entire day of testing. Literally, 8 hours or something I've been at it today, and yesterday, because I didn't get to upload a video. I've been testing this a lot. The ones that have been giving me the best results are the Golgari one and the Gruul one. So we'll be playing mostly with these two tonight, and then I might snag in a game or two with some of the others, and then we'll definitely dive into each one so that you can at least have a look at them. And then these episodes of Brewing With, as you know, are all about getting your creative juices flowing. I'm not here to show you the most cutting edge new top tier deck. I'm here to say, hey, look, there's this Planeswalker that is not getting played much in Standard. Can we find a good home for it? And it's the best time during the season to be doing this, because everybody's rank has just been reset. I'm back in Platinum. I've had maybe 2-3 matches today in total. In ranked, I've just been testing, and unranked, I won my last match. But yeah, this is the perfect moment to do this. From tomorrow, I'm going to be focusing on racing to Mythic, and I'll probably need to play some meta decks. So if we're going to be testing and doing an episode of Brewing With, and potentially testing some jank, then today is the perfect day to do it. So let's, without further ado, jump into tonight's first brew. I want to go with the, where is it? The Wolves. This was my first thought, Mostly creature deck, Wolves is good. We don't need to have too much interaction. Even some of our first earlier versions of this deck, and the ones that are still currently represented somewhat in the meta, only run, if it's the Snowlands version, 4 copies of Blizzard Brawl, and maybe the burn spell that does 3 damage if you have 3 lands. That Frostbite, I believe the name is. So that's only 8 non-creature spells in the entire deck. They sometimes run the Werewolf Planeswalker. That name is now escaping me, but the majority of the brew is creatures, and so Vivien suddenly the second mode there that we were discussing, mill 5 cards and putting a number of creature cards into your hand, suddenly becomes the majority of the time you're drawing 4 cards or 3 cards, because it's going to be mostly creatures. So this isn't going to be, although it's probably one of those ones where I'm trying to balance both a little bit out. The +2 in this deck can be okay, because we've got some things that are okay to sacrifice, like the Paxong Pup, which when it dies you gain life equal to its power. So and then you could get a Tovolar Dire Overlord for free, and there's a full curve on the creatures. If you sacrifice one of your 3 drops, you get a 4 drop, which you probably won't be doing that. The aim here is to do the Hellpack Piper type win con, where we allow it if we haven't been able to go to nighttime, because we do have 2 drops here that will start the day-night cycle straight away on turn 2, the opponent often casts something and it won't go to nighttime straight away, but if it does, good. If it doesn't, then a good way of doing it, other than Tovolar, which we'll get to, is the Howl Pack Piper, where when you're using his activated ability, the pay 1 colorless and a green, tap it, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If it's a wolf or werewolf, untap it. You can activate this only as a sorcery. It's not actually casting any cards, so you can pass the turn having expanded your battlefield significantly. Even if you play this on turn 4 and you don't make your land drops, following turn you can activate it twice and put 2 more wolves onto the battlefield without actually casting them. Past the turn, it will turn to night, and then not only will you get the value from it turning into night, the Wild Song Howler says that whenever it becomes nighttime, you get to look at the top 6 card of your library, you may reveal a creature card from among them, put it into your hand, so card value as well. Just that ability of flipping it into night is amazing, and it's also uncounterable, which people overlook. This card I should probably run a 3 of, but I just wanted to sneak in an Ill-Tempered Learner, and I don't know what else to trim. We might just end up trimming at Tamiyo's or something, but anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. We've got a full playset of the Ascendant Pack Leader, which is a wolf, and when it enters the battlefield, if you either already control a permanent with mana value 4 greater, or you play one on top of it later in the game, it will gain an additional +1/+1 counter. So it's a nice little aggressive 1-drop. And we've got full playset of Tamiyo Safekeeping to protect our creatures. So the type of deck, again, because I don't want to play Snow anymore, it's rotating and it feels old and outdated. I'm gonna still do a similar strategy where in the entire deck there's only actually 8 interaction spells. We've got full playset of Moonranger / to do some damage, and a full playset of Tamiyo Safekeeping to protect our creatures, and that's it. The rest are just creatures, right? But in a creature deck like that, I think instead of a 3 of, Tamiyo Safekeeping needs to be a 4 of, because there's some very crucial pieces that need to stay on the battlefield. Something like your Tovolar, or maybe later in the game, a Hunt Master or a Volatile Arsonist, what have you, just when they're about to hit you with a sweeper. And don't forget that you can also use this on any permanent, so if they try to remove your Vivien, you can also protect that. Then we've got 2 Outlier Liberators and 2 Packs on Pups. Wow, this deck is one of the hardest ones to build. This, it's so tight for space, because I would love to have more of these. The Packs on Pup gains you life, the Outlier Liberator gets rid of artifacts or enchantments. It was a huge conundrum for me, and I just honestly don't know what else to cut, and I can't bring myself to cut more interaction even more, and going up to more creatures. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But like I said, gaining life, growing every turn if you have werewolves in play, or wolves, and this one with the ability to start the day-night cycle, as well as destroying artifacts and enchantments. Then of course we've got a full playset of the Naturalist, which can... This was so weird. I player tested this one so much today. It makes mana when it attacks, which is kind of, pushing you to cast something that turn. But then if you do, it doesn't switch to nighttime, and you kind of want it to switch to nighttime, because then it gives all your wolves and werewolves this buff, and it grows bigger, and you still get the same effect with the adding of mana. So you often just have to play it on turn 2, wait, and then on turn 3 you attack, and you don't cast anything off of that additional ramp that you just got, and then you pass the turn and it switches to night. And then on turn 4 you finally get to do crazy nighttime werewolf stuff, which is my biggest problem with this card. So let's see. We may end up doing something like this if we had to really like fine tune this deck. Damn, day and night. Put in, oh, where is it? Night. There it is. One copy of Unnatural Moonrise, which has flashback, becomes night. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample, and whenever this creature does combat damage to a player, draw a card. So even if we end up discarding this one to the Vivien's +1, it's got flashback, we can still cast it. That's a nice little adjustment. Onto the 3 drops we've got, I've already touched upon Moonrager Slash. It costs 2 less colorless if it's nighttime, so you can do 3 damage to any target for 1 mana. Really nice, you can go face with it, you can sometimes end games with it. Then we've got 3 copies of the Reckless Stormseeker. The ability to give the creatures that previously enter the battlefield haste is really nice. Tovolar for some card draw, as well as just being a way of going to night by himself. If you have 3 wolves or werewolves in play at the beginning of your upkeep, it turns to nighttime automatically. And whenever a wolf or werewolf deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So you can often draw like 2-3 cards of this guy if they don't deal with them straight away. And it's really nice, of course, because it dodges Vanishing Verse. I'm just looking for some water. No water. Then, onto the 4 drops. We've got 1 copy of the Ill-Tempered Loner, which again, this deck is... That's why I went for that mono red version earlier last season, because like then at least it's sort of like, okay, less decisions to make, because this is also just an amazing 4-drop. Whenever it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target, and then if it's nighttime, all of your permanents gain that effect. This is another like just a sneaky one of WinCon, but I would love to maybe have like 2 or 3 of them in here. I just do not know what else I would cut. Also, you can, like the Howlpack Piper, dump mana into it that turn without actually needing to cast anything, which will then flip it to nighttime the following turn. Just pay 1 colorless, 1 red, and it gets +2/+0. Then, onto the 5 drops. This card, I think, post-rotation, when Gold's Pendragon leaves the format, this is actually going to maybe be something we need to brew around more seriously, because if it's already nighttime, it's a 5/5 Menace Haste that deals 2 damage to a creature, a Planeswalker, and an opponent when it attacks. I mean, even if they have 2 creatures that are ready to block, you just maybe can kill one of them with the damage, get rid of their Lolth, and it's got Menace. I mean, that's bonkers. And the front side is just like everything's just toned down by 1. You know, it's only 1 damage to each of those things, and it's a 4/4, but still Menace and Haste. Doesn't have flying, doesn't make treasures, it's not as broken as Goldspan, which is why nobody plays it, but I think after rotation, this card is going to get a lot better, so keep your eyes on the Dire Strain Anarchist, which allows us to also have that curve for the +2 on Vivien if necessary, because, you know, you could, if you had to, sacrifice a Volatile Arsonist and get a Caretaker or a Huntmaster. There's situations where, because you've already got the Stormseeker on board, you can, rather than attacking in with the Arsonist, you may be, because maybe it's already nighttime, you may be more incentivized to sacrifice the Huntmaster to the Vivien and get a Caretaker, and then give it haste and give all of your creatures, what's it do? 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature if it's nighttime, and swing in for the kill. So yeah, just nice to have that curve. It's fully 3 very powerful cards in the 5-drop slot for Vivien's +2. And then onto the 6 drops, we've got 1 of each, a Caretaker and a Huntmaster. Just again, great cards on their own and work well with Vivien's +2. And that, as well as the activated thing on the Halpak Piper. You can just pay 2 mana and bring one of these onto the battlefield, and then give it haste with the Stormseeker. Game-ending stuff. So yeah, that's the deck. As far as the first one we're going to be playing tonight, this video will definitely go a little longer than our usual ones. As far as the mana base goes, I've got 2. I've got 2 Den of the Bugbears, 1 Lair of the Hydra, 2 Boseijus, 1 Sok and Zan, and the rest are just duels and basics. We may think of adding some Crawling Barons, some Field of Ruins, but for now I've just been running it kind of stock and standard. Let's jump into some games. And like I said, the season's just reset, so I don't really care about my rank, and we can just play all of these brews on the ladder. Jalebi Weirdo. Jalebi Weirdo. I hate putting my one-offs at the bottom of the library, but what can you do? Blue tempo. This is not a good matchup whatsoever. I have a bad feeling about this one. I'll try my best, of course. At least we're starting the day-night cycle. This type of deck spends a lot of time casting spells on our turn, so they might let it go to night more often than not. Oh, that's bad. That is bad. That is very bad. I thought he would level up the spirit, but we've got an experienced gamer on our hands. Wow, that's so cheeky. Wow, that's cheeky. I want him to use his Fading Hope. At least we won't take... Wow! 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 Amazing! Whoop-de-doo! That was just mind-boggling. Yeah, well, we just lost the game. That was incredibly lucky kind of events for the opponent. Can you believe that? Spell pierced. Amaze balls. Okay, tap tap. Not that that means anything, honestly. Completely stomped by mono blue tempo right there, but we're gonna definitely have another match because that was just pathetic. the Game Lord. Depending on time, like I don't mind going a little bit later tonight. We may just do like a double, you know, a little bit, like maybe into an hour and a half, and I'll just. My plan is to play a match with every deck. If I get to show off all of the interactions with this one, then we'll go straight into the next one. My black control is obviously very bad. I'm going to let it go to nighttime so that I have both the mana for the Tamiyos and the Moonrage Slash. Come on, burn your, also your other spell there. Grasp. Maybe he's got a... Okay. I was dreading a, Deadly Dispute. Holding up the Tamiyos again. I went for the Papsong Puck because then we can hold up the Tamiyos and because of the life gain. Now I'm worried about Meathook Massacre, of course. Almost certainly. Okay. Yeah, well. So now it'll be next turn. What can you do, huh? Try to maximize damage. You could take out our whole squad with the bloody... Okay. Interesting. I think we just won the game. Not quite. So close. Oh, so close. Well, could be a sweeper now, and then we just did.
Envy the strong, for they subservience will be rewarded.
And now we got him. Even if he's got removal, we've got the Tamiyos. Get stuffed, mono black. Definitely very lucky we dodged a Meathook Massacre there. Still not a single Vivien making any appearance, not only in our hand or in any way, shape or form. But in this particular deck, she's more of a restock engine. Let's go get some water while this loads up. again with our one of, and it's probably again going to be the one that I bottom. By the way, other than the lands, this is pretty much rotation proof, 100%. Not even pretty much, 100%. It's just the creature lands and the pathways that are rotating. Very nice aggressive start. Tavalar turn 3. Oh, my God. Yeah, at least we get to draw a card. Woo. We need 2 red though for the arsonist. This could be just control, honestly. If we ran into Doom Scars and things. Mate. What a crock of food. There's the second red source. And it's nighttime. Ooh. That'll also put a counter on our arsenal. Wow, that means we'll do 2 damage to the apparition. Which means we'll get a 3-drop. You know, 3 power and toughness. You need Doomscar or you're screwed, my friend. Okay, good on you, mate. I probably should have used that Tamiyo's to save one of our creatures. That was a bit stupid. That's the game. Alright, I think... I mean, Vivien never made an appearance, but I don't want to waste too much time on this one. It does feel nice. Like, the werewolves are good. And I think come rotation and, like, adding some new cards from the new sets, they might get pretty nice. So keep your eyes on werewolves. But the second version of this that has been working really well for me is the Golgari Elves version. So without further ado, let's jump into brew number 2, Vivien's Golgari Elves. And this is one of those types of decks that just, it doesn't really care about removal at all, really. You just overwhelm the opponent. You gain life enough and you draw enough cards and you have enough chump blockers that you can win regardless. So we've got a full 6 cards that are in here to save our creatures. Feign Death, you know, better for destroy effects that don't exile and don't require hexproof, because then very nice with our elves, especially because we have the Elvish Warmaster. Whenever an elf enters the battlefield, you get a trigger, and so if you put a Feign Death on one of your elves and they, die and then come back, that's pretty nice because you get another trigger on the Elvish Warmaster, often during the opponent's turn. And then Tamiyo Safekeeping for the more extreme stuff where it's like, sweepers, targeted removal, you need hexproof, that kind of stuff, and it's nice that you gain the additional 2 life. Then we've got a couple copies of Dig Up, because we're playing Golgari, why not? I mean, we can go find our Vivien if we need it, we can go find our Unnatural Growth, maybe the last Skemfar Shadowsage that we need to win the game, or what have you. It's just a great all-rounder, little tutor card, it can also help you ramp in certain situations. So it makes sense. And also a full playset of the Tajuru Blightblade, which in the initial version of this brew was actually the 1/2 reach guy that is also an elf, and that also allows you to tap other creatures for mana, who's now, oh my god, why can't I not remember that card's name? It's in a few of the other brews as well, so don't worry, we'll see it again. But the Jaspira Sentinel. But I ended up switching for the Blightblade because of the Death Touch against Boros and stuff. Then we've got the Skemfar Avenger. Talking about the Vivien's +2, where you sacrifice a creature. You sacrifice a creature. If this is the thing you're sacrificing, you get the trigger regardless. So you get to draw a card and lose 1 life. Fine. And even if it isn't it, because of its ability, you'll still get the trigger. So you can either do the first option, sack it, draw a card, and play a 3-drop, often the Harald, King of Skemfar, because it has an ETB trigger that allows you to search your library for another elf. But also, you can sacrifice another elf, and it could be maybe one of your 3-drops. Maybe you sacrifice Harald and get a Canopy Tactician or a Skemfar Shadowsage, which is one of our main win cons, for free, and still get to draw a card off of the Avenger. Then we've got a full playset of the Elvish Warmaster. Of course, why would you not play this card if you were playing any kind of elf tribal? And it's probably going to be the majority of the time the target for our save spells, because we really want to keep the Warmaster on the battlefield. Every time another elf enters the battlefield, you create another 1/1 elf, which helps with our Shadowsage win con, and it also has this amazing activated ability where you can pay 7, which with all the ramp in the deck, you can often do that quite quickly, and it gives all of your elves +2/+2 and Death Touch until end of turn. Then we've got, talking about ramp, 2 copies of Circle of the Dream Druids, add 1 green for each creature you control, so, considering every time you play an elf, you get another elf if you have the Elvish Warmaster, and we've got some 1-drops, and 2-drop, we've got elves all along the curve. Then we've often got a lot of creatures on the battlefield. We go quite wide, and the Circle of Dream Druids then will just become ridiculous amount of ramp. Then Harald is here to restock our hand, helps us find another thing to cast. It's just a nice little mid-rangey, middle of the game, like turn 3, just play out your Harald, you get another card in your hand. Maybe next turn you get to swing for 3. If you don't get to swing because they've got too many blockers or whatever, then at least he becomes a pretty decent blocker himself. Then we've got Skemfar Shadowsage. Talking about win cons. When it enters the battlefield, you get to choose one of these 2 options. Either your opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have the same type in common. Since all of our creatures are elves, and the Warmaster makes elves, sometimes we get into these situations where we've got 5-6 creatures on the battlefield, and then when the Skemfar Shadowsage enters the battlefield, you order your triggers so that the Warmaster's trigger of making the warrior comes first, which will increase. Not only will you get the additional elf from the Warmaster, but also it is an elf itself entering the battlefield, that minus X life can become quite big. And in other situations where you're playing against aggro and you're a little bit behind, you can gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control. So very, very versatile. Such a sweet card. And on top of it, it has 5 toughness. This can block almost anything on the ground that borrows can throw at it, which makes it really, really nice in my opinion. And then on top of it, if you throw on a Canopy Tactician, which gives our elves, this is our elf lord, gives all of our elves +1/+1, then this becomes like a 3/6. On the ground, there's very little in standard that's getting through that. This also is our second ramp source alongside the Dream Druids. Once it loses Summoning Sickness, we can tap this guy for 3 green, and that'll help us cast our Unnatural Growths, or make a really, really big Lair of the Hydra, or cast our Vivien. There's good reasons why that's fantastic, but yeah, really mostly in here for the Anthem effect. Then we've got a couple of Unnatural Growths, as if that wasn't enough, and the activated ability from the Elvish Warmaster weren't enough. We've also got potentially an Unnatural Growth on the battlefield, doubling all of our creatures' power and toughness. So amazing. And then right here at the top end, we've got Vivien, of course. That's what we're brewing around tonight. In this particular deck, again, like I said, if we have the Avenger in play, the +2 becomes okay, and if we don't have it in play, then the +1 is still great, because the majority of the cards in the deck are creatures. And then, of course, the -1, it's not an elf, but it's still a 4/4 Rhino Warrior. As far as the mana base goes, 2 Lairs, 2 Boseijus, 1 Takenuma, 1 Lair, and the rest are just duels and basics, as always. Let's jump into some games. Elves, boom, boom. Hypnotic. Very nice. Very nice. Double Warmaster. And we're on the play against white. Although it could be Esper. Like, nice. Starting to go very wide. It's got flyers, but this is gonna hurt. I think if we don't get what we want next turn, which is a land, which is play the Avenger, the Shadowsage, then we may just go Avenger, dig up, so that we do find the land for the Shadowsage the following turn. Make it even stronger. Ooh. Ooh. Nah, I think that's the way to go. Eight, 9 damage next turn. We may need to actually use the Avenger. It depends. Often they don't like, this is a great little win con. Okay, he doesn't have a land. Oh, that's great. Then let's drain him. Down to 7. Let's draw some cards, baby. Takes 4 damage, and we draw. Oh no, it's non-tokens or what? Oh, non-tokens. Okay, my bad. So we either draw a land and play Unnatural Growth and win the game, or we play Harald and draw another elf. Hopefully another Shadowsage. Poor guy, I'm sure he's dying for a land. Please, a land. The land would be amazing. Just Unnatural Growth, swing. That's what I thought. Okay, so unfortunate. We're wide enough that we can just attack next turn regardless. Fortunately, he seems to be bricking a little bit. Land would be pretty bad. Okay. Imagine we just top deck Shadowsage. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blockers. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I think we got him. Regardless, math is for blockers, and we've got the Tamiyos. And whatever he doesn't, you know, we'll get a bunch of triggers off of the double Avengers on our board. I think because he has to double block the Avenger, the King Harald, it still wins us the game. He's gonna gain 3. Still 5 going through. Whoopee! Got him. I'm still uncertain on the brew that I'm gonna use to rank up this season. I don't know. I think events are probably the way to go if you want to get playing points. Arriving in the top 250 is, with my life and my schedule, it's just not doable. So if I want to get into the qualifier, the probability of me doing it is much higher if I just go play standard events and get playing points. And I think that's the case for the majority of people that play this game. So, yes, I'm going to race to Mythic because I'm competitive like that. But I don't think it's as important as it used to be. Glint Eye. Mr. Glint Eye. Still no Vivien's. all things. Clark is legendary. Ooh. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Two copies of Velomachus in the yard. Nice. Using the plug like that. Quite like that. Of course, we're going to block the Trampler. And Feign Death. Draw a card. Probably going to be Invoke Justice, and then I'll just switch these. Yeah, here it comes. Let's see what he gets, just for fun. Wow, yeah. Bam. Suicide, baby. Alright, well, Velomachus, pretty much what got me to Mythic last season. Insane deck. Nice way of doing it with Plarg. I like the addition of Plarg. That was very, very nice. But okay, back into our endless amount of deck lists. We've had a look at the Wolves, we've had a look at the Elves. We've also got mono green Stompers. Third best from the top as far as performance goes. This one leaning heavily on fight rigging once again. So we've got Ochre Jelly, which is a great thing to sacrifice to the Vivien's +2, because when you sacrifice it, it comes back as a token. And it's also a great place to put your +1/+1 counters from fight rigging and the ranger class. So coming back from, you know, we may even not have ever even seen this card. It's from AFR, and it's you pay X and 1 green, and then it comes to play with X +1/+1 counters, and then when it dies, it comes back with half the amount of +1/+1 counters, and then you can just keep putting +1/+1 counters, and it just keeps coming back as long as you have enough counters on it. So like I said, a great place to put the counters from the fight rigging and the ranger class, and also okay to sacrifice to the +2, because then you'll get a Outland Liberator. But otherwise, we've got just a bit more of like a, I don't know, traditional mono green deck with a bit of a weird top end. We're trying to do a bit of everything. So we've got some 5 drops that'll allow us to be sacrificed into some 6 drops, namely 2 caretakers, and we've also got some 7 drops in the form of the Elder Titan, so we can sacrifice the caretaker and get a Elder Titan. Almost never going to happen, but it's doable. Otherwise, we're just using the the +1 to mill and get creatures. It's way more slanted towards creatures. Otherwise, we can also just make some rhinos that are great. So a little bit of a different approach, leaning heavily into green. We've got Tamiyos to save our stuff. We've got Master's Rebuke to remove some stuff, as well as the Outlet Liberator for artifacts and enchantments. The Topiary Stomper for some ramp, and the fight rigging. We can hit the Titan of Industry. We can hit Vivien herself. We can hit anything's quite nice with the Titan. And again, going with the sacrifice theme of the +2, we can sack through the Boundless Sky and get one of the death triggers off of it. We've got a Toski in here for some sneaky card draw. Nice little brew. As far as mana base goes, 2 Boseijus, one Lair, 1 Crawling Barons, 2 Field of Ruins, and some basics. That's the mono green version. Let's jump into probably just one more game, and then I'll just show you the other few brews. There's the Croaky's version, best of 3. I of course went and checked what he was doing with it, and I'll show you some of the other elf variants, and then we'll call it a night. Judas with the devil. Don't ask me why I kept that, but we can play the Stomper with the mana that we have in hand. That's okay. It's very slow though. Ooh, I'm so happy that this deck is gone next season. Like, there's just, the whole deck just falls apart. They lose the Crab, they lose the Hideous Laughter, they lose the Maddening Cacophony. Like, all of the good mill cards just disappear next rotation. Actually, okay, I'm not going to play a mill deck. This is an episode of Brewing With. We can just skip this kind of nonsense. I'm not here to have you guys watch me get milled. Especially with mono green. I didn't have much that could actually have dealt with that Crab. Oh, long wait. Here we go. How's one? No. Thank you. Even though we have a ranger class, I'm not keeping this hand. That is a mulligan no-brainer. Much better, much better. I was expecting the other one, the Innkeeper. Oh, that's terrible. That's just terrible. Not making land drops there. Feels so bad. Okay. Giant visit. deciding whether to go to nighttime or not, I guess. Please give me a land. Bloodchief's Thirst. Oh my lordy lord. See what he discards. Be very telling. Removal. Of course. That's a GG. So it doesn't go to nighttime. Pity. Terrible, terrible, terrible hand. I think as far as my energy levels are going, I'm starting to get really sleepy and it is almost 3 a.m. So I'm going to play like 1 or 2 more with this one and then we'll call it a night. Hopefully I've done my job. Your guys' Vivien juices are flowing. Really. That sounded wrong. Wow. See that every day. We Swayze's mono green, mono blue artifact there. Counter spells, which is interesting. We've got like Tamiyo Safekeeping's deluxe for Fading Hopes, but we probably don't want Fading Hope. And now we've got mana for the Caretaker or the Vivien. Probably go for Vivien, depending on. Okay. Pretty nice. We don't have much reach.
I'll show you city slickers how we handle things in the wild. Now what do we have here?
Wow, that was terrible.
Okay,
Yeah, it's okay. It's
now
okay.
it's my turn. Look around. Life's everywhere.
Whew. And it goes down to 4. I only do 1 Tamiyos because of the tax from the Paladin class. We win. Alright guys, pretty nice, pretty nice. Getting to show off, you know, some different brews with Vivien, and I'm going to definitely show you the other ones, even though they're the ones that I didn't, you know, get to play tonight. I still think they're valid and worth expanding upon. So Croakies went for this like toolbox approach where all the creatures in the deck provide some sort of value. So we've got Brutal Cathar, Skyclave Apparition, a Ramp package, Talia, the copy package with Fable, we've got Goldspan Dragon, and then Vivien's just there because it's all creatures, right? And they're all gas creatures. Some of them have haste, some of them remove stuff, and then in the sideboard he's like, okay, we've got enchantment matchup, let's bring in the Liberators. We've got control matchup, let's bring in the Archons. Yeah, and then of course the Legion Angel is in there. Very, very nice deck. I can see how he must have done quite well with this one. And I had some success. I played a best of 3 match and I won it. I just tested it once. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. So if you're thinking of going Naya, maybe Croaky's way of doing things is a little bit more up your alley. Then I've got a my own one, which is quite similar, but for best of 1, leaning into the werewolves, where the white splash is just for the Brutal Cathar, but essentially very similar to the Golgari one. Then I had, beg your pardon, I made also a mono green and Naya Elves version, where we have the Jetmir, Wincon, and Master's Rebuke off of the Tajuru Blightblade to kill stuff, Tamiyo Safekeeping to save our stuff, ways of replacing our creatures, you know, Brazen Upstart, when it dies you find another creature, Cabaretti Ascendancy, a little bit of additional card draw potentially, and Rock Cabaretti, you can like cast it and have another creature enter the battlefield, so double potential you know, cards entering the board on one turn. And then, you know, the same sort of elfy stuff, but because we're splashing red, we get to run the Fleetfoot Dancer, and then if we hit a Nexus of Rebels at the right time, making all of these 1/1 elf warriors with the Warmaster can be then game-ending stuff. And then 1 Drizzit and 2 Viviens. I've also got, like I said, a the last one was a mono green one, but probably the least exciting of them all, although I did really enjoy playing with Varys again, which happens to be an elf human, and getting a little bit of dungeon action going on. But this one was also quite fun, just because of the mono color. You get to really oversimplify. You just go for the full Lord, some ramp, and therefore we get to go 3 Viviens instead of the 2, which was in most of the others. And very low interaction, only 8 non-creature spells, of course, alongside the lands. Just this one is actually really harmonious, and seems like it could do more. I might need to put a bit more testing into this one and see how it performs under some more vigorous testing. That is it for tonight's video as far as gameplay footage and various brew ideas are concerned. I'm just going to jump back into probably my favorite one, the Golgari one, just to sort of have something on the background while I talk you guys out of this video. But thank you all so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow with some fresh brews. And until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.